the Vancouver Canucks and the fact that their two stars, Elias Pettersson and Quinn Hughes, RFAs, still remain unsigned. Would you rather be the general manager of the Buffalo Sabres and try to offload Jack Eichel, or would you rather be Jim Benning in Vancouver and have $14 million in cap space to figure out a way to sign both Elias Pettersson and Quinn Hughes?
With respect to how difficult this Canucks situation is, I still think I'd rather be Jim Benning because, obviously in this case, he's still got two really, really, really good young players, and these guys want to play hockey, right? Like ultimately, yes, there's a contract stalemate at the moment. They haven't been able to solve it. It's complex, and I think we'll get into that a little bit here, Julian. Some of the working mechanisms that are going on in this rather unique negotiation, just that you have two young stars, literally the two best players on your team, represented by the same agency, skating together right now, along with Brady Tkachuk, a restricted free agent from Ottawa in Michigan. They're all staying in shape while working through their various business decisions here. And, as you mentioned, the Canucks have been in a very difficult cap position really for a couple seasons now. I thought Jim Benning did a nice job, quite honestly, in July. You had a couple buyouts, Jake Virtanen and Braden Holtby, made that monster deal with Arizona in which he was able to offload, some of his cap headaches from his bottom six. I think, there was some progress there, but, one thing I do question, and obviously I'm not in the negotiation and I've got hindsight here, but, I wonder if he could have pushed harder to get these deals done earlier on, because, what's happened in my view is the market on both players has increased with some other contracts signed around the league. And that's made this an even more difficult puzzle to line the pieces for.
So is this just a case of Jim Benning waiting? Can you at least just kind of lay out why these two players still haven't been signed yet?
Well, let's approach them individually because, while they are two parts of the puzzle here, I think they have some individual unique aspects to the negotiation. My understanding of where Pettersson's at is that, term on both these contracts, I think, is important. In a perfect world, you're trying to sign both of these guys to 8-year deals if you're the Canucks, I think, because you want to buy up and secure all their best seasons in the NHL. You'd basically be buying the remainder of their 20s, whatever they're going to be, whatever their max is going to be, you're covering it with 8-year deals. But there's no way to sign them both to 8-year deals at cap numbers that they could fit in immediately. And so you start to get into smaller term. And so if we start with Pettersson, it seems like 5 years is something, at least at the moment, that's on the table, that I think that there's some comfort there from both sides. Now, not a lot of players get a 5-year deal out of entry level because you're only buying one UFA year if you're the team then, right? And so the player gets to, take another swing of the bat, still pretty young, probably when he's got some great numbers. The most sort of notable recent 5-year deal, the Leafs did that with Austin Matthews. And, Matthews had tremendous leverage in his negotiation, was one of the best goal scorers in the league. The Leafs had to do anything they could to get him signed to any deal at that point in time. And so they were able to get that. I think what the dynamic that's come up with Pettersson is we've just seen Kirill Kaprizov sign a 5-year deal in Minnesota at $9 million. And so the player in that case gets a relatively short term, but he's getting, a pretty big cap number at $9 million, pretty much unprecedented. I would say there's not really a comparable to that situation. My understanding, I think, with Pettersson is that, the sides there are kind of, I think there's an understanding he'll take a little bit less than that $9 million. With Kaprizov, because he's older, Minnesota was able to buy 2 unrestricted free agent years with that contract. Vancouver would only be able to buy 1 with Pettersson on a 5-year deal. And so I think that will probably bring his cap hit a little below 9, maybe somewhere between 8, 8.5. I think that there's, that might be the sweet spot. And I really believe what Jim Benning said. He doesn't feel like they're far apart on money. I don't think they are either. I don't think that there's a huge discrepancy there. And so if it ends up being a 5-year deal, I do think it'll be somewhere in that neighborhood. Now with Quinn Hughes, it's a different kind of story. What didn't help him is this Rasmus Dahlin contract. That was a 3-year deal. So we're talking a shorter term now. Quinn Hughes has seen, a comparable in Cale Makar get $9 million on his second deal in Colorado earlier this summer. That was on a 6-year term. I think if you see him go down to like a 3-year term, that's a way for Vancouver to limit what his number is. But, I think the Canucks have been saying, well, what about the Zach Werenski second contract? In Columbus, Zach Werenski got 3 years times 5. And I think that they thought that was a fair comparable. Well, here along comes Rasmus Dahlin right the day before camp with Buffalo. He signs 3 times 6. So already the number's gone up on a 3-year deal. And I think you could reasonably look at the production of Dahlin and Hughes through this stage of their careers and say that Hughes is worth more. So, I could see a 3-year deal making sense there, but that, if you're talking 8.5 for Pettersson, what are you talking, 7 for Hughes or 6.5, 6? I mean, you can see there where you say somewhere between 14, 15, 16 million, depending on what Vancouver does with some other players, because they are going to use long-term injured reserve. And so they don't have a precise number of cap availability, but, they're going to be right up against it when they get these deals done. And I'm of the belief that they will ultimately get done before the regular season starts, but we'll see where these negotiations go.
So my galaxy brain theory about the reason why Pettersson and Hughes are still holding out here is because they wanted nothing to do with that 40s skate that was going on in Vancouver the other day, where we saw like Oli Olevi like sprawled out, turning himself into a meme. I think someone barfed behind the net here. I think it was a Connor Garland. I think that's what I heard was the running name there. And obviously Oliver Ekman-Larsson just struggling to get there. I don't know about you. I'm not a hockey player. I don't skate, but like I would want nothing to do with any of those skates. And if I'm Pettersson and I'm Hughes, I'm taking my sweet time throughout training camp before a deal could happen, because they're training on their own. They're probably not doing 40s.
This is the evolution, man. Like everyone says, all the young players are taking over the league. Like this is some veteran savvy maybe getting out of that kind of skate by these young guys. Maybe not ideal without having your contract, but there's some benefits here by not being there for that day of workout.
I'm telling you, man, if I'm Pettersson and Hughes and I'm seeing the photos of everyone running, I'm like, phew. Pettersson and Hughes between the two.
I bet that group chat was lit.
Yes. Oh, man. I'm telling
you. The guys were in there with that.
You're on the phone just like, ha, you suck. You have to go through all that and you have to barf. Hell no, I'm not doing that shit. You crazy? No way.
Well, if they sign long enough, they'll be there for all the future years to do it. So they got to get to – they better not get fat and lazy after getting the money.
Oh, my God, no. Who do you think signs first between Pettersson and Hughes? I get the sense Pettersson might.
It makes some sense. I mean, look, I could see them both signing at the same time just because, again, totally unique dynamic. That they're both represented by Pat Brisson of CAA, and they're together in Michigan. So it would make sense if they're going to fly to Vancouver at some point, sign these deals, get back at camp as soon as possible, that it all sort of happens in tandem. But if you're the Canucks, there is an order. Because Quinn Hughes isn't eligible for an offer sheet. And so you probably would ideally want to sign Pettersson first because Hughes couldn't sign an offer sheet. If you sign Hughes first, there's always the chance, however unlikely, that someone tries to swoop in and overpay him or give him an amount of money you can't match on. And so I would just think from a protection standpoint, if it has to be one over the other, you're going to see Pettersson signed first by the Canucks. But, given all that's at play here, I think it's going to be two guys at the podium, lots of smiles, flew in maybe private together, and then on the ice the same day. You know what I mean? It's good. I think that it's set up to do it in tandem if possible.